everybody. Welcome to Scott Fox After 9. Wow, this is a short week, but man, are we cooking. And I'm getting ready for the Listener DMs episode tomorrow. If you want to weigh in and be featured on the pod tomorrow, by all means, slide into my DMs at Scott Fox On Air. Today, we're talking about a number of different things. We've got a hot mic over at the CBC. We've got another floor crosser from the Conservatives to the Liberals. We've got former Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor now in police custody, and more remarks from Doug Ford that I think most families are going to find infuriating. All of that and more coming up on this episode of the pod. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into it, and we're going to start off with that floor-crossing member of parliament. A quick history lesson. His name is Matt Genereux. He is from the Edmonton Riverbend riding, which is one that I'm told has never once voted for a Liberal member of parliament. Well, now they've got one without a vote because Matt here has decided to cross the floor. Now, back in the fall, it was rumored that he might cross the floor. And then he said, nope. I'm going to step down. I'm going to leave this position. I'm going to call for a by-election and I'm done in politics. And he said, please leave my family alone. He said he wants to spend more time with them, but please leave them alone. And I remember thinking at the time, that's a weird thing to put in your statement. Please leave my family alone, because I didn't think that any reporters would go questioning his family. So that was a strange thing. Well, now, lo and behold, he's decided he's spent enough time with his family. He's not only going to continue on in politics, he's going to go and work for the Liberals. This is Matt Genereux with Prime Minister Carney yesterday announcing the floor crossing.
Well, thank you everybody for coming here to a cold day in Edmonton, but especially you, Prime Minister. It is a real pleasure to have you here in Edmonton. You're always welcome in Edmonton, and we have a lot of history, both of us here in Edmonton, and it's a beautiful part of our country. So I had announced my resignation back in November, largely due to the family reasons, but quite simply couldn't sit on the sidelines after seeing what the Prime Minister was ambitious agenda he was undertaking across the country and across the world. And quite honestly, it was the speech in Davos where you took everything head on, and I think for me that's where a lot of the world changed. I think it opened a lot of eyes for Canadians, Albertans, Edmontonians, just how serious this national unity crisis truly is. And it's for me, it felt disingenuous and quite simply wrong to be sitting on the sidelines anymore. So I reached out to the Prime Minister's office, and we'll be joining his caucus, and I couldn't be more proud to this.
Excellent. Fantastic. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Your work to do. There we go.
Is it just me, or are these floor crossings getting more and more suspicious and more sleazy? Ooh. Okay, so back in the fall, step down because I want to spend more time with my family. Fast forward, he watched the speech from Davos and decided, I can't sit on the sidelines anymore. I've got more work to do. Matt Genereux is now a Liberal, and he says he phoned the Prime Minister's office. Well, I don't know if I believe that, because it's very well documented now that members of the Liberal Party have been actively trying to recruit Conservatives to cross the floor. And God knows what they're offering them. I don't have any tangible proof, just rumors. But I would say that Mark Carney still does not accept what happened in the last election. Canadians gave him a minority government, and he's doing everything he can to try and circumvent democracy here and try and make sure that he has a lock on power, even though that is not what the electorate gave him. Now back to Matt Genereux here. Matt the Rat, as some people are calling him. He has got a storied history of being critical of this Carney government. Here is him in the House of Commons.
Mr. Speaker, grocery prices continue to soar and gas prices are hitting a record high. That means parents can't afford to pay their bills, feed their kids, and they're terrified where the next paycheck will come from. The Liberals' answer to this, Mr. Speaker? Just cancel your $13 a month Disney Plus subscription. That's how out of touch this Prime Minister truly is, Mr. Speaker. So instead, will this Prime Minister stop his inflationary spending and stop raising taxes?
Okay, Matt Genereux, clearly not a big fan of the government at one point, and frankly, none of those things have gotten any better. Gas prices are high, grocery prices are high, inflation is high, the cost of living is high. Nothing has changed. So what did change with Matt? Is this really just that he wants power? Did he get promised something? What really happened here? I'd like to know that from Matt, because frankly, I don't accept his excuse that he saw the Davos speech and thought, man, I got to get me some of that. My riding be damned. Forget my constituents. They can go hungry. I'm hungry for power. That's what I'd like to hear Matt say, because that's basically what he's saying without saying it. Oh, here's another one.
Mr. Speaker, Edmonton's violent crime rate has increased 16.5% in just 12 months. And in 2022 alone, it represented the highest number of violent criminal incidents ever reported in a single year. The even scarier part, Mr. Speaker, this trend has carried into 2023, with violent criminal occurrences increasing by 6% in the first quarter of this year compared to the first quarter of last year. In fact, we're seeing a 68% of violent offenders who were arrested and released become involved with the police again. These are the highest rates of crime in our city's history. This is why organizations across the country are calling for bail reforms to keep violent offenders behind bars. After 8 years of the Liberals' catch and release crime policies, Canadians don't feel safe walking down the street or taking transit. In fact, Mr. Speaker, what's even scarier is that these policies are just making it worse.
Okay, I mean, Matt, did something change? Because I'm not aware of any legislative changes. It doesn't seem to me that the Liberals have gotten any better on fixing any of the actual issues that we as Canadians are facing. I thought Matt wanted to stand up and be a voice for those people who don't like the direction our country is going in. Now he's decided to be part of the problem. Can we all agree? I think we should all agree that if the people in a certain riding elect a member of parliament, that means they've voted for that party's platform. And that MP decides, you know what? I don't like this anymore. I'm going to cross the floor. Shouldn't that trigger an automatic by-election? Doesn't that seem like common sense? That's not what the voters voted for. So maybe if that member of parliament wants to compromise his values and his principles, maybe, just maybe, he should go back and ask the people of that riding for a new mandate. Wouldn't that make sense? Well, this government is not going to do that because they want people to cross the floor. They want a majority government without having elected a majority government. It's dirty. Come on, you got to admit it's sleazy. I'm sure that if you're a member of the Liberal caucus, you're probably loving this because this might have bought you more time in office with that high salary and all the different perks that come with it. One person who's definitely happy about this, Minister Melanie Joly. She was asked about this yesterday.
He needs to be able to keep his own MPs in his own party. It's his own problem.
Oh, so this is a Pierre Poilievre problem. Because you know what? Pierre didn't kick Matt out. Pierre put forward a platform, which Matt gladly ran on, and it got him elected. He's making a lot of money right now as a member of parliament for Edmonton. Well, what changed? He wants more. Seems like a greedy fella. He seems like a shady guy. I don't know what else to say, but if anybody was going to cross, I suppose this is the one that I would have guessed. That's been rumored for a long time. Now, for what it's worth, I know there's some people that are worried Carney is going to get this majority government and then we won't be able to get rid of him as voters. And that's fine. If you're worried about that, we will definitely have an election in 3 years. It could happen sooner because it's a minority government. I don't know how long Matt's going to last here. I don't think the people in his riding are all that happy that he has crossed the floor. Like I said, they have never voted Liberal. But I'm also led to believe this is likely the last one to cross the floor. People figured, they speculated there'd be 3. This is the 3rd, and now the end of it. I feel like voters in his riding got duped. They were promised a by-election, and they never got it. They just got a member of parliament working for a different party than the one they elected. Shady, you know? Hey, listen, if you're frustrated, I get the frustration. This is just the way our system works, and there's no desire to change the system because right now it's working for the government of the day, which happens to be the Liberals. I'm going to move on to a different topic now. Yesterday's hockey game. What a nail-biter. And what does it say about Team Canada that we went to overtime against Czechia in the quarterfinals? Does that mean that we're worried about this gold medal possibility on Sunday? Well, to get to the gold medal game, we need to win tomorrow. After the game yesterday, head coach John Cooper talking to the media.
People say that we're in the entertainment business, and if you didn't find that entertaining, then I don't know what gets your heart going, I'll tell you that. It's the beauty of this tournament. The Olympics is a special time. It is unique to any other sport or any other moment, and this is what you get. You get two proud countries that rich in history going at a game like this, and it was, wow, what an exciting game.
What was it like, or how concerned are you seeing your captain leave the ice the way he did today?
Yeah, that was a tough one. That's unusual for him to do that. So we'll see how it is. But I know that was a big thing in the locker room. After the second into the third was, we're not making this Sid's last game, and so there was a lot of inspiration behind it.
Yeah, I'm worried about Sidney Crosby. I hope he's okay. Yesterday was just a weird game, but you know what? Czechia came out strong. There was an advantage to them. They'd played Canada, and clearly they're very, very good at going over video. They figured out how to exploit Canada's weaknesses. Not that there are many, but they figured out how to do it, and they hung in with the Canadians. So good on Czechia. Canada is going to play, I believe it's Finland, in the semifinals. The winner goes on to the gold medal game, which will almost certainly be against Team USA. That's going to happen Sunday morning on the final day of the Olympics. Go Canada, go. Today, the women's team is playing for gold against the Americans. We're guaranteed a medal, at least silver, but the Canadian women are in tough against a really strong American women's team. So I hope it goes well. I know there's a lot of people who want to watch the game. That's great. Good for you. I'm a little nervous about the outcome here, but either way, a great effort from the team at the Olympics this year. Let's keep moving on. Early this morning, the news broke that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, we used to know him as Prince Andrew, has been arrested by police in the UK, and this is related to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Sexual stuff aside, it's rumored here that Prince Andrew may have been giving up state secrets from the UK to Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, I mean, I'm sure that the police want to investigate that. I hope that this is a legitimate investigation and not just a means of covering up evidence, because it certainly wouldn't be the first time that has happened. But let's take a little dive into this. Prince Andrew, his main accuser, Virginia Giuffre, who has now passed away. Well, Prince Andrew denied ever having any involvement with Virginia Giuffre. Let's go back not that long ago.
She says she met you in 2001. She dined with you. She danced with you. You bought her drinks. You were in Tramp nightclub in London. And she went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell.
Didn't happen.
Do you remember her?
No. I have no recollection of ever meeting her. I'm convinced that I was never in tramps with her.
Pure scum. I'm glad he's in police custody. The accusations of what happened with Prince Andrew, just some of them, are completely gross. It's amazing to me that so far they're only investigating him basically on corruption charges and not the sexual related stuff. Here's a little bit of the accusations from Virginia Giuffre. This was on NBC.
First time in London, I was so young. Ghislaine woke me up in the morning and said, "You're going to meet a prince today." I didn't know at that point that I was going to be trafficked to that prince. And then that night, Prince Andrew came to her house in London, and we went out to Club Tramp. Prince Andrew got me alcohol. It was in the VIP section. I'm pretty sure it was vodka. Prince Andrew was like, "Let's dance together." And I was like, okay. And we leave Club Tramp, and I hop in the car with Ghislaine and Jeffrey, and Ghislaine said, "He's coming back to the house, and I want you to do for him what you do for Epstein." I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that even royalty were involved.
What sounds more plausible? That very detailed accusation from Virginia Giuffre, or the denial from Prince Andrew that, "Oh, I never met her"? It's a weird one, right? I mean, it sounds to me like Virginia Giuffre was trafficked to Prince Andrew. There is tons and tons and tons of stuff in the Epstein documents that suggest Prince Andrew was involved on a sexual level with the people around Jeffrey Epstein, including the trafficking accusations and much, much more. Who do you believe? And should Prince Andrew be facing many more charges than the ones he is currently facing for basically giving up state secrets to Jeffrey Epstein? Well, time will tell, but either way, I'm glad that at least one arrest has been made, and congratulations to police over in the United Kingdom. They've done something that not even the FBI has done. They've made an arrest related to Jeffrey Epstein. Where does that investigation stand, by the way? Well, Representative Nancy Mace, who I play a lot of here on this podcast, is doing the media rounds, and she's talking about what she wants to see done. I want to play a little exchange that she has here with another podcaster in the States, talking about what comes next and where we're at now.
But this one there, him and Steve Bannon are talking, and he goes to Steve Bannon, he says, I'm going into a SCIF talk tomorrow. So SCIF, that's probably one of the most classified intelligence briefings.
Correct.
The most sealed rooms there is and in the US government. And for someone like Epstein to have access to that SCIF in 2018, a decade after pleading guilty to I think, sex with a minor or engaging with a minor for prostitution, that's another one of these things that cannot be explained that links to US intelligence. But back to the other question I asked, what else, is there anything else in those files that you've seen? And also, why are you being monitored as a member of Congress going through these files? Why is the DOJ monitoring you?
Yeah, well, on the first part, you can also see at some point when the MPA was done by Alex Acosta, literally the feds are bending over backwards to work with Epstein and his attorneys. I mean, like, literally, they're just doing everything they can to please them. And it's really bizarre. So something switched, something changed. You know, again, I think that points to this guy was an intel asset somewhere and they knew it, or maybe he was brought in because he had so much stuff. Maybe that was the turning point. But there's just something that is very off. With regards to the DOJ, which is under the executive branch, and of course I'm in the legislative branch, I would argue that the spying of the DOJ on members of Congress is a violation of the separation of powers. So we have three branches of government: judicial, executive, and legislative in the federal government. And those three branches are separate. And when I went in there on the second day, they log us in under our own special login, and I tinkered with the software and I was kind of playing around with it. And literally, I discovered that as soon as I searched for a document and clicked on it, my name was tagged with it. So they were adding your name as a tag to every single file that you opened. And then there was this timestamp associated with it. So the DOJ is tracking members of Congress and the documents that they're opening. And then I saw later on the screenshot of Pam Bondi, who had a binder full of searches of documents by members of Congress. And the Speaker of the House is disturbed by this. I am deeply disturbed. Like, why are they spying on us? It is a great question that Pam Bondi should answer.
There's a ton of questions that Pam Bondi needs to answer here. There was a lot in there. Jeffrey Epstein had access to incredibly highly classified documents. Why? Well, I mean, Nancy just said it there. He must have been an intelligence asset for some intelligence agency. Was it the CIA? Was it Israel? Who was he working for? Nancy also saying that even as she tries to get to the truth here, even as she goes through the unredacted Epstein files, the Department of Justice is tracking which documents she looks at, and they're logging it. Why would that happen? Are members of Congress not allowed to use their free will, their security clearance, to go ahead and look into an important matter like this? Sounds like the answer is no, as far as the Department of Justice is concerned. And frankly, that's why we got to keep digging deeper on this. We cannot let this topic go. One arrest so far. Prince Andrew, behind bars at the moment. Will he stay there? Are they ever going to link it to the sexual stuff and the trafficking and the prostitution and all of those other things? I don't know, but I hope so. Anybody who did something wrong has got to be held accountable here. I'm going to move on. Continuing to blow through many different topics on this episode of Scott Fox After 9. Yesterday, Canada's immigration minister did a speech to the Canadian Club of Toronto. She announced something new for Canada's immigration. Let me give you a little bit of background here.
Today is a great opportunity to reflect on what immigration in Canada looked like when I took this role 9 months ago, compared to where we are today. I'll discuss how we're regaining control of and restoring stability to Canada's immigration system. I will share some of the many steps that we are taking to ensure the system supports Canada's economy and social fabric. And I'm going to start with the global pandemic that we will never forget, those of us that have lived it, and everyone has in this room. In 2019, when with our healthcare and economy in crisis, Canada used immigration to address urgent labor shortages and to support our recovery. Unfortunately, it also grew our population faster than many Canadian communities could absorb, also putting pressure on housing, on infrastructure, and on social services. When Prime Minister Carney, our new Prime Minister, appointed me as Immigration Minister last May, the task was clear: rétablir le contrôle.
Okay, well, she goes through a little bit of French there. Let me just point out, she's finally figured it out. It seems like the government finally realizes they let in way too many people, way too quickly. And yes, that did put pressure, just like we've been saying for years. It put pressure on the jobs market, the housing market, our social safety net, our healthcare system, and the list goes on. All of that was done intentionally. Now, the minister here is blaming it on COVID. Is that really what it was? Because there was other governments around the world, left-leaning ones, doing the same thing, not the least of which was America, which actually tore down the wall that Donald Trump had built and just let people pour into their country. And now they're dealing with the consequences of that there in a similar way to how we're dealing with it here. They're doing mass deportations in America. We're not doing that here. In fact, we don't even know who's still here that was supposed to have left. Here's a little bit more from the immigration minister.
Canadians gave our government a clear mandate to reduce and stabilize immigration, and that is what we are doing. We've reduced new permanent residents to less than 1% of the population. Nous réduisons la population de résidents non permanents. We are reducing the non-permanent resident population, including international students and temporary workers, to reach the target of below 5% by the end of 2027. Nous modernisons notre système d'octroi de l'asile. We are already seeing positive impacts. Rents are trending down in general. Here in Toronto, rents are down, and the city has reported easing demand from refugees and asylum seekers. As a result, confidence in immigration is starting to return. We've achieved this in part by paying attention to local, provincial, and territorial priorities, and by focusing on results people can see in their daily lives. Lorsque les nouveaux arrivants.
The minister there, quite shrewd, going in and out of French because she doesn't want people like me to cut out the French parts and make it one coherent statement. She doesn't want me to do that or anyone else to do that because she really doesn't want that out there. The government is the reason that we're dealing with this mess. They did it intentionally. They knew it was costing us way too much money. They're only stopping because it became unpopular politically. People finally connected the dots that, wait a second, all this was happening by design by this Liberal government. There's no other way to see it. They did it intentionally. They knew it was putting a strain on our system, and they kept going ahead with it anyway. Until they got caught with their hands in the cookie jar, then they had to pull back. Now they're doing news conferences to say, we're fixing the problem. It's the problem that they created. There is one more part of this speech that I want to play for you. I find this one to be very concerning, personally.
And finally, we are creating a new category for skilled military recruits to attract highly skilled foreign military applicants. Eligible recruits with a job offer from the Canadian Armed Forces, including doctors, nurses, pilots, can be invited to apply for permanent residence. They will be subject to the same security and all military requirements. This new category will support our government's commitment to strengthen our armed forces, to defend our sovereignty, and to keep Canadians safe. This category and other priority categories supports Canada's defence industrial strategy, which Prime Minister Carney announced yesterday, by adding a range of workers critical to support our sovereignty and security.
Okay, so there it is. We're inviting foreign trained military to come to Canada as a permanent resident. They can apply to our armed forces. They can come here. They'll become a permanent resident. And then what? Are we actually going to use them in the military? Do they actually want to fight for Canada? And where will these soldiers be coming from? Because there's a lot of people who instantly, when they heard that, said, we're bringing in Chinese army members. We're bringing in members of the Chinese military, and we're going to embed them with the Canadian military. Could that be happening? And is that a good idea, knowing everything we know about the deep integration of China into the Canadian government and the very sensitive trade talks that are going on between Canada and the USA right now? Donald Trump has made it clear he does not want China on his northern border. Is it possible that that announcement was made so that we can embed more Chinese into the military? I mean, Chinese soldiers, Chinese troops, Chinese warfare experts. Is that what's going on? Because a lot of people's mind went there when they heard the immigration minister say that yesterday. And if that is what they're up to here, is that a good idea? We are offering permanent residency to a number of different categories now. If you'd like to know more about what was announced, feel free to go back and watch the minister's entire announcement. Again, it was at the Canadian Club of Toronto yesterday, or you can get Grok or ChatGPT. Most of the AI programs can give you a pretty accurate summary of what was announced yesterday. We haven't closed the door. We're still bringing thousands and thousands and thousands of people here. News conferences like that are meant to make you feel good, to just ignore what's going on. Okay, it seems like the government's got it. I don't need to pay attention to it. I think you do need to pay attention to it. I think all of us do. Well, I'm playing stuff regarding the federal government, and in a few minutes, I'm going to get to some Ontario-centric things. Let me do this. In a committee hearing, I believe this was just yesterday, possibly the day before, we had a great member of parliament for Newmarket Aurora, Sandra Kobena. She was interviewing a member of the civil service. In fact, he's the CEO of the Canada Infrastructure Bank. This is a new one that Mark Carney created. How much do you think he gets paid? How much do you think this very wealthy banker gets paid to be the CEO of the Canadian Infrastructure Bank? In the private sector, this would be a well-paying job. But of course, in the public sector, where you get tax dollars, we have to be responsible with those tax dollars, and we have to make sure that every penny is accounted for properly. So it should be a fairly straightforward question. Sir, what is your salary? Listen to this.
How much did you get compensated last year, in the last fiscal year? Base salary and bonus?
Open and transparent, and it's published on the internet.
Just the number, if you can. It is a public number, public information. I have the number, but I'd like you to just share with us.
Compensation is set by our board every year. They benchmark against the public markets.
Corey, could you share with Canadians what your compensation is?
Thank you for the question. As said, my compensation is public. It's benchmarked every year by our board and set. And Corey, I agree, I work for taxpayers.
I'm sorry, I have to ask you, why are you refusing to share your compensation? It is taxpayers' money that contributes to your compensation. They deserve to know, so can you please share with them?
My compensation is a matter of public record, and I take my duty as a worker for taxpayers seriously.
Your compensation is in the range of $553,000 and $651,000, and you are entitled to an incentive, a bonus, of 50% of your base. So you could be making around $1 million. Could you justify that? What metric justifies that level of compensation for someone who is working in the public sector?
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair. I am. As the questioner points out, as the member points out, I've worked in public service both at the provincial and federal level for about a dozen years. And
I'm asking about the compensation and how to justify it. As you know, we have an affordability crisis. I find it unjustifiable to have a compensation for someone to have a compensation of close to $1 million.
Isn't that wild? You know, it's one thing that we're paying a civil servant $651,000 a year, but then they also get a bonus of 50% of their base salary. We're paying this guy $1 million a year, and contemptuously, he did not want to answer that question. In fact, he didn't answer that question. He refused to answer the question. His attitude? Go look it up. No, you say it. You're getting $1 million a year from the taxpayers. We want to hear you say it, and we want you to justify what it is that you do to make $1 million a year from taxpayers. The lack of transparency is just outrageous. The sense of entitlement is completely preposterous. That is just a complete and total lack of respect for taxpayers. I got to move on to something else here, getting through as many topics as I can before I get to the listener DMs episode. And I do want to get to Ontario Premier Doug Ford in just a few minutes. There's been talk about aliens lately. Barack Obama basically acknowledged, yeah, there's aliens. Then he tried to walk it back. This is going back to this past weekend. Well, President Trump's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, she was doing a podcast interview, and she indicated that President Trump not only is aware that there are aliens, but President Trump has already got a speech written for the day that he confirms alien life. Here are those remarks from Laura Trump.
Another thing I believe I heard on your podcast that you've discussed with the president is UFOs. Do you think that he's about to make an announcement about UFOs? Because President Obama was just on a podcast talking about how he believes in UFOs and hinting that he saw something when he was president.
Well, I said this in my podcast too. What's funny is we've kind of asked my father-in-law about this because we're like, well, what do you know? Because Miranda, we all want to know about the UFOs, or we all want to know what's going on. And he played a little coy with us. And so that, of course, led us to believe, Eric and I were like, oh my gosh, if he won't even like fully tell us, maybe there's more to it. And then I have just heard kind of around that, I think he's actually said it, I think my father-in-law has actually said it, that there is some speech that he has that I guess at the right time, and I don't know when the right time is, he's going to break out and talk about, and it has to do with maybe some sort of extraterrestrial life, so to speak. I just, I look at things from the perspective of the vastness of our universe. And I'm a kind of a numbers person. I don't get nervous flying because the odds are very much in your favor flying. The odds that anything will happen to you are far greater in a car than they ever will be in an airplane. But I'm also looking at the odds in terms of how much is out there in the universe. And it would be pretty wild to think that the only spot where there was any sort of life in the entire universe was here on Earth. So I don't have any information. I feel like there might be information out there, and hopefully it's going to be able to be told to all of us very soon. We'll see.
Laura Trump on the podcast Pod Force One. Well, this did come up yesterday at the White House. There was the White House media briefing with Carolyn Levitt, and a reporter asked her specifically about those comments from Laura Trump. Listen to this.
Barack Obama, Caroline, was recently asked if aliens are real. He says they're real, but he hasn't seen them. The president's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, told Miranda Devine of the New York Post that the president has a prepared speech on this issue that he prepares to deliver at the right time. Is that true? And does the Trump administration believe aliens are real?
Well, a speech on aliens would be news to me. That sounds very exciting, though. I'll have to check in with our speech writing team. And that would be of great interest to me personally, and I'm sure all of you in this room, and apparently former President Obama, too. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Why are they all laughing? Are we still at that point? Somebody says, oh, there might be aliens, and everybody giggles like they're crazy? I don't know about you guys, but I feel kind of similar to how Ms. Trump feels there. I think that it's impossible that we're the only life in the universe. The question is, has that life come here? When did they come here? What did they want? Are they still visiting? Are they walking among us, as many people believe they are? I think we should get a little bit of transparency here. And if there's something to tell the people, then I would appreciate it if the leaders did that. Why would it be Trump, though? If the aliens came here, what's to say that they went to America and wanted to deal with the American leaders? Could they have gone to China? Could they have gone to Russia? Could they have gone to the United Kingdom, Italy, you name it? Why would they come to America specifically? And has the U.S. government had contact with them? And what's going on at these secret bases, by the way, like Area 51 and others? Lots of questions to be answered there, and hopefully in due time we'll get answers. I strongly suspect that what's going on here is very similar to what's going on with the Epstein files. This is just my personal opinion on this, after having analyzed it pretty carefully and with a little bit of anecdotal experience. One of the things that I've learned is people aren't ready for the whole truth to be thrown in their face all at once. They need to be eased into it. Kind of like some people like to dive into a pool, regardless of how cold it is. They'll just dive in head first and enjoy the water. Other people need to dip their toe in, and then they need to get their legs in. Then they need to get the mid-waist in. Then they need to get their tummy wet. You know what I mean? People get in there very slowly. And I found that when it comes to things that we've always been told are conspiracy theories, when it turns out that they're actually true, a lot of people can't process that. They can't handle the fact that they've been lied to, or that they have believed something that was untrue all along. You got to go slow. And I think the White House understands that. When they float out there things like that, it's probably preparing you for an inevitable announcement. They haven't made that announcement yet, but they're going to. They're trying to normalize the idea so it is not such a shock to people when they hear things like a global child trafficking, Satan worshiping pedophile ring has been running the world covertly for years. They're not ready to hear that. They need to be eased into that. And I have a feeling that's part of the reason that there's such a slow drip happening with the Epstein files. People just aren't ready for it yet. UFOs? Oh my God. There's some people who would have ended up in an institution if they suggested that UFOs were real and that aliens have visited Earth or are living among us. They've been told you're a crazy person who wears a tinfoil hat if you believe that. All their life, they've been shamed into believing that. Now when we come out and acknowledge, oh, well, it's true, actually, they have a hard time processing it. For years, people were told cannabis can kill you. It's a dangerous drug. Stay away from weed. You got to pass on grass. Then one day, the government just came out and legalized it. That was a major shock to a lot of people because everything they believed growing up turned out to not be true. This is very similar. I think eventually we'll get the story on aliens. I think every time a story like this comes out, it's somewhat intentional to try and normalize it so it's not a shock to people's systems. This one got shared with me a ton yesterday on the CBC. Rosemary Barton, who is the host of their main political show, and she's one of their political correspondents, maybe the chief political correspondent, if I'm not mistaken. She was doing a segment during the daytime where she was trying to add a little bit of political context to the conservative that crossed the floor to the liberals. Well, they didn't turn her microphone off when the segment ended, and she got caught saying something on a quote-unquote hot mic. Listen to this.
Comes to be elected again, but there's also, the reality that some people in Alberta are kind of warming up to the Prime Minister because he has taken markedly different positions on issues that matter to them, whether it be energy development or climate change measures that he's backed off on. So maybe Mr. Genereux feels like his riding is starting to move in that direction as well.
Rosie, thank you. The CBC's chief political correspondent, Rosemary Barton, live in Ottawa. Minister of Industry, Melanie Joly, is speaking to reporters in Montreal. Let's listen.
It's because it's all made up anyway.
Did you catch that right at the end? The camera had cut away. Rosemary thought her microphone was off and she thought she was free to talk to the people that were in the studio around her. Did you hear what she said? It's all made up anyway. What?
Just because it's all made up anyway.
What was she responding to? What was all made up? Her analysis to make people think that people in Edmonton actually wanted a Liberal member of Parliament? This whole floor crossing fiasco, trying to make it seem like it's very organic? Is that what's made up? Or is all of this a show and the CBC is narrating it to try and make it more palatable for the people? I'd like an answer to that. Somebody should ask Rosemary Barton and she should answer it. She works for the taxpayers. She's a civil servant in a way as the chief political correspondent for the CBC. What is it that's all made up?
Just because it's all made up anyway.
There's something really shady going on with our mainstream media, folks. And I think the way I just said it is the best way to describe it. Right now, there is a drama playing out and it's being narrated by the CBC. And what does the power of a narrator give you? The power to shape the story. And that's what our mainstream media is doing. Before I go, and I'm low on time, Ontario Premier Doug Ford, I saved him till the end today because frankly, I don't want to get too mad at the beginning of the pod. Yesterday, he tried to do again what I said was indefensible. He tried to defend the changes he's making to OSAP. He's trying to defend this attack that he's made on families and students in Ontario. Let's hear a little bit of what he had to say.
A brand new campaign launched called Save OSAP, to try and get some people behind the idea of making changes or speaking out against the changes that your government has made regarding OSAP. Just wondering if you'd be open to the idea, if you end up hearing from enough people, to perhaps scaling back the changes that you have announced at this point regarding OSAP.
Well, what we were doing was unsustainable. We're paying for everyone's education. The only place in North America that's doing that. We put $5.4 billion a year, and then we added that and topped it up to $7 billion a year. Those are staggering numbers. What I can tell you about OSAP and college universities, especially OSAP, we've added $3 billion since the previous administration. Folks, as I said before, you know, the most vulnerable are going to be taken care of. That's clear and simple. It's going to be 25%, and that puts us in the middle of the pack. That's more than British Columbia. That's more than...
Before he continues this rant to try and justify an unprovoked attack on students and families, let me just point out here, the saying he's going to take care of those who need it the most, 25% doesn't cut it. It doesn't. To even get OSAP, you have to prove that you do not come from money. That's the first thing. Then on top of that, you could get up to an 80% grant if you earned it. Nope. Down to 25%, as colleges and universities are now allowed to raise tuition every year again. They only get 25%, whereas the previous cohort got up to 85%. It's insane that he is now attacking students, attacking families with no notice. I'm not going to relitigate this argument. If you didn't hear my earlier episodes this week, I had a lot to say about it. And I just want to point out one other thing, that a point that I haven't made yet is while Premier Ford is quite content to let families and students take on even more debt to make life even harder for students, the ones who are going to college and university this year, the ones that'll be going in September 2026, these are the ones that, thanks to Doug Ford's policies during COVID, had to have a drive-through graduation before they went into high school. They left elementary school with a drive-through grad. Sometimes they didn't even get that. Schools canceled it because of Doug Ford's policies. This cohort never got a chance to take advantage of $10 a day childcare, whereas all of the kids that are in the childcare system now, they do get an opportunity. There was no favors done by this government or any other government for the kids that are going into college and university in September, and a lot of the issues they faced were just because of Doug Ford and his policies during COVID. Now he's going to screw them again. They don't even get the same OSAP opportunity that kids before them got. There's been nothing for this generation. Doug Ford has hung them out to dry, and because he is so stubborn, He is going to continue doubling down, making mean comments about how they spend their money, the courses they're going to take. He's going to keep attacking them to try and convince low information voters that this is something that they should galvanize behind him on. Screw those kids and their dumb courses. They're not going to take taxpayer money. That's what he's tried to do here. This generation, this current crop that's getting ready to go into college and university, they never had any favors done for them. No $10 a day child care. They didn't get anything. They had a lot of their school affected by Doug Ford's policies, and he's screwing them one last time on the way out the door.
One equal to Manitoba and other provinces across our country there. But, you know, something I'm all for investing into our colleges and universities, but we have to focus on jobs in demand, jobs of the future, STEM, healthcare, trades, tech. Those are just to name a few. And you got to understand the taxpayers are the ones paying for this. Not me, but the taxpayers are paying for education. And what they expect if you're paying for someone's education, they're going to come out and have a job that can stir the economy. That's what they are expecting when we're investing unprecedented amount of money. On top of that,
I just want to point out, Doug Ford has enabled this for years. Doug Ford has been the premier for 7-8 years now? He's been elected 3 times. The fact that he had to dump $3 billion more into OSAP is proof that he was wasting taxpayer money by letting them get away with that. Hey, listen, if the new mandate is that we're only going to subsidize education that will eventually lead to a job that contributes to the economy, fine. But you got to let people know. You got to give them a little bit of notice. Some people have been saving since the day their kid was born for post-secondary through RESPs and other avenues. To just say, starting in 6 months, tuition's going up. And by the way, your grant goes from 85% to 25% with no notice, and then shame them for daring to consider a course that Doug Ford doesn't like. It is the most tone-deaf thing from this government that is famous for doing tone-deaf things.
So, folks, there's money there. But I don't believe in giving money to a family that's earning $250,000 a year. The taxpayers don't believe in it, plain and simple. The people that don't have the money, I'm all for it. Take care of the students, take care of the families. But I'll tell you one thing again, the taxpayers expect the students to go through courses that are going to drive economic growth.
When has Doug Ford ever said anything like that? This is the new talking point because he knows how unpopular this is. And you know what? I've been hearing so many messages from people they're all saying the same thing. I can't believe I voted for this guy. I can't believe I once voted PC. I can't believe I did it because I did it because there was a lack of options and because I believed that he was for the middle class. This is not someone who is for the middle class. This is someone who's directly attacking to the middle class. Listen to the anger in his voice. This is an attack on families. Hey, if you want to change the rules and say we're only going to provide OSAP funding for people who go into programs that will lead to jobs that are in demand, fine. But you don't announce that in February to take effect in September. People have tried to plan their education. This guy just doesn't get it. And you know what's amazing is he probably never will either. Listen, I just want you to know that if you have a kid going to college or university next year, they are at a distinct disadvantage compared to every other kid who's gone through the system. Doug Ford has confirmed all that money he pumped into OSAP, into a system that he now says is unsustainable. It was on his watch. He had the opportunity to fix OSAP, to change the requirements so that if you want to go into a program that is going to lead to a job that is not in demand or going to contribute to our economy, then you don't get as much funding. If you want to go into STEM or healthcare or life sciences or something like that, absolutely, the grants are there for you. To suggest that there are families making $250,000 a year and their kid was getting a full ride on OSAP and wasting the money on cologne and watches is preposterous. That means OSAP's not doing their job if Doug's even telling you the truth. There's money that does get wasted. Absolutely. We could reform OSAP and make this really good so that we really pump up Ontario's best and brightest. He's not interested in doing that. It's all cut. By the way, in the same news conference as he's announcing massive impacts to families, he's talking about how he's willing to fund Taste of the Danforth again, a failed festival in Toronto. I don't even know what they need funding for. For what? It's a street festival. I am, you know what? Let me play one more time. I didn't want to get worked up, but it's hard to not when you hear such a tone-deaf announcement, when you're literally changing the rules in the middle of the game. That's what Doug Ford is doing. It's hard to not get fired up because I know that this is going to impact families. By the way, I should declare a bias. My youngest is off to university in 2 years. 2 years, he'll be off. Do you know how much debt kids are going to take on because of this? The difference between 25 and 85%? And not everybody got 85%. But the max they can get is 25% now. And Doug Ford doesn't even understand why people are angry. He's going to try and make you the problem if you complain about this.
Folks, I guess I got a little bit of traction when I said about shopping. All of a sudden, some poll comes over from Yorkdale saying over 70% of the people want Yorkdale to be opened up, just like the Eaton Centre. But emphasize one thing: people need holidays. They work their backs off, and they'll never be forced. So I've asked my minister to go forward and bring back some information. And
Doug Ford citing some phony poll that says people are demanding to be able to go to Yorkdale Shopping Centre on holidays. Frankly, I don't believe it. I think he's full of it. By the way, saying nobody's going to be forced to work. And maybe he was listening to this pod because I pointed this out, and it's an obvious one for anybody who thinks things through. Yeah, there's going to be repercussions against employees that say no. A holiday is supposed to be a holiday, and we've designated it a holiday by the government so that people can have time off. Well, now Doug is saying, well, people work their backs off. They need their time off. That's not what he was saying just yesterday. Go back and listen to yesterday's pod. What did he say? You want holiday time? Use your vacation time. We have holidays, just a few days a year where things are supposed to close. And everybody knows the full year in advance when it's going to be. Lots of advance notice. If you need to buy something, buy it in advance. Do people need to go to the mall on a holiday? I don't think so, to be honest with you. Not with all the other alternatives. And by the way, not everything is closed. The Eaton Centre in downtown Toronto was open on Family Day because it's in a designated tourist area. If somebody comes to Canada, they're visiting Toronto and it happens to be a holiday, they don't want to have to be stuck in their hotel room with nothing to do because everything's closed. Now, me personally, before I went to another country, I'd probably look into what's going to be open and closed. But I guess some people don't. So in designated tourist areas like Toronto, the Eaton Centre is allowed to open on Family Day. And there's a few other examples. The premium outlets are allowed to be open on holidays. There's not a shortage of places for people to shop. Doug is just hellbent on trying to make people work on a day when it was mandated. Until now, you're supposed to get a day off.
We'll go from there. But I'll tell you one thing. On Family Day, Yorkdale would have been jammed. Sherway would have been jammed. Square One would have been jammed. All the malls across the province. And to make sure that they get double time and a half. They get their stat holidays, then they get time and a half. And people will never be forced to go to work. Never. Or will charge the company that forces them. But on the other hand, someone making $20 an hour wants to make $50 an hour and wants to work those 8-10 hours, bring home $500. God bless them. They should have that opportunity. And then it would stimulate the economy.
You know, there are literally 1,000 different ways that I could think of off the top of my head to stimulate the economy. Forcing the working class to work on a holiday is not one of them. Where does he come up with this stuff? I mean, tell me again, he's not Canada's Donald Trump. Just ranting and raving about stuff that is completely off topic and doesn't even make sense. No, people are not going to work on a holiday. That's all there is to it. The government decided Family Day's a holiday. Things are supposed to close on a stat. They should be closed on a stat. That's all there is to it. And even at that, there are still places that people can go to shop if they really want to. It might not be the mall that's closest to them, but talk to people in rural parts of the country. They're used to that anyway. There's nothing close to them as it is. Listen, trying to make people work on a holiday, wrong. Doug Ford saying, we'll stick up for people, bullshit. No, you're not, because you won't even know what happened. You know how many people get fired all the time without cause, and the company will just pay out a little bit of severance to shut them up and get rid of them. But people lose their job all the time because they say no to the boss. Boss says, hey, we really want to open up on Family Day. Can you work? And you say, nah, I think I'd really rather spend the day with my family. They'll remember that. And in some cases, you'll be gone the next opportunity they get. The province isn't going to do anything about that. There's no way to defend against that. This is the wrong path to go down, and it is the wrong guy to try and make the change. I got to go, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. If you've got a DM for me, slide into mine at Scott Fox On Air, and I will see you in less than 24 hours.